Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today, it's the 4th of July, so happy 4th of July, my fellow Americans. But also today, the next round of Brawls kicks off. The previous round of Brawls was 1v1 with Tier 9 ships. This round, it's 1v1 with Tier 10 ships. So we're going to go through my top 5 picks for this round of Brawls. The stipulations for this list is that the ships must be currently available. We can't have anything like the Puerto Rico or any previous premiums that have been removed, like Thunderer, for instance. So these ships are all available to get right now. In fact, every single one on this list can be had for free at the moment. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. So coming in at number 5 is the Tier 10 Italian freemium heavy cruiser, the Napoli. Now, I was debating if I even wanted to put a cruiser on this list, as there really weren't too many cruisers involved in the last round of Brawls, but Napoli wasn't allowed because she was a Tier 10 and the previous round was Tier 9, and it was mostly destroyers or battleships. And if there's one Tier 10 cruiser that's pretty darn good at dealing with both cruisers and battleships, it's most definitely the Napoli. Now, what the Napoli's got going for it in terms of DD repellent is her wonderful sap secondaries. Napoli has baked into it the most accurate secondaries in the game. Plus, they fire sap. All those 90mm guns that on the Italian battleships barely pin 17mm worth of armor with HE can basically murder anything that isn't a battleship or a well-armored heavy cruiser with the penetration they get by firing sap shells. And like you just heard me said, Napoli has, by default, the most accurate secondaries in the game. You can build into them a little bit with the modules and get them going a little bit better, and you'll be absolutely ripping through DDs. And with a good chunk of battleships, the extremities can be pinned by Napoli's sap, and that's also pretty darn good as well with dealing with those battleships. But also, the Napoli has 9 240mm guns with Italian AP that hurt pretty darn bad if you do get on a ship's side. She's also one of the most well-armored cruisers in the game, which is why in clan battles, the current, and I think it's actually ended yesterday, season of clan battles, you see two Napolis everywhere because they're one of the few cruisers in the game that are actually well-armored enough to stand up to super ships. In addition to that, too, she has torpedoes as well and a crawling smokescreen, which will give you the opportunity to disengage in a 1v1 engagement unless you're going against something that has radar or hydro, but you can definitely get out of hydro range with how quick the Napoli is. So she is my number 5 pick. Again, there's not too many cruisers in these 1v1 Brawls, but I would imagine for this upcoming season of Brawls, you're going to see quite a few Napolis. Going on down to number 4, we have the Tier 10 tech-aligned Soviet battleship, the Kremlin. I mean, you gotta be killed to lose, right? And the Kremlin's one of the best battleships at simply, well, existing. So the Kremlin is, I'm sure, no stranger to many of you watching here. She has a pretty darn good armor scheme, especially from the bow in. And from the side, if you stay angled, you will be bouncing most shells that are going to be coming at your side, but do not show flat broadside in the Kremlin or you will cease to exist. But to back that up, she has 9 457mm guns with Soviet shell ballistics, which means they are some of the hardest hitting guns in the game, even though they're, well, I mean, they're not small by any stretch of the imagination. They're not 20-inch guns, but they are 18-inch guns, and they will slap the crap out of just about anything. In fact, the guns are so good, you pretty much don't really have to load HE if you're dealing with the DD. I mean, obviously, in a 1v1 situation when you know you're only going to be fighting a DD, load HE, but the shells have such good alpha that you're going to chunk most of a DD's health in one salvo of AP if the shells do cooperate. Now, she does have the Soviet dispersion gimmick where the shells are more accurate at closer range than longer range. So the closer you get into the target, the more accurate your guns will be. Well, the less dispersion you'll have, I should say. So in a brawling situation, when you're going to be closing in on many a ship, that is pretty darn ideal. Not to mention, too, you can mount Kuznetsov. Why can't I remember the man's name? Kuznetsov, there we go, on this ship. Which, of course, gives you his Will to Victory talent, which gives you a free heal and a free damage con when you're about to die, when you get down to 10% health. It should, of course, have the quick damage con consumable that will definitely come in handy in a brawling situation. These are those consumables that they don't have a very long cooldown time. You do have a limited number of them though, so you do need to keep that in mind when you are playing the Kremlin. But in a 1v1 situation, when you're fighting just another battleship or another whatever ship that you're fighting, you don't really have to worry about that because you're probably not going to have to use all 5 charges of your damage con during this engagement. But she's a really tough ship, good armor, lots of HP, hard-hitting gun. She's a little slow though. She does take about 7 years to turn, so you do have to keep that in mind. And that is why she's back here at the number 4 slot and not lower down on the list. But getting lower down on the list, we have the Ohio, the tier 10 freemium American battleship. Now, this ship is free. It does take quite a while to get through the Research Bureau, but good God, this is an amazing boat. She's great at mid-range, long range if you build into it, and close range too if you build into it. So what is the Ohio? She is a Montana hull with 8 18-inch guns instead of her 12 16-inch guns. Now, these are 457mm guns. They're not 18.1-inch, 460mm. So you can't overmatch 32, but they still hurt pretty dang bad. They've got the American Super Heavy AP. They are very slow shells, but in a brawling situation, when you're playing at closer range, you don't really have to worry about that. They reload pretty darn fast for 18-inch guns, especially, again, 8 18-inch guns at tier 10. In addition to that, too, you also have the Ohio secondaries, which are the secondaries that you get with the Massachusetts. They're that same level of accuracy. Now, they're not as accurate as they once were, but they are really darn good at dealing with destroyers, which, again, you're probably going to be running into quite a bit in this Brawl season. So these secondaries allow you to have pretty good DD repellent on your Ohio. In addition to that, too, you also get the Ohio heal and the Ohio damage con, which is, again, very similar to the Massachusetts' damage con and heal. It's a very quick cooldown time on the heal. It's basically the heal that was given to the Vermont. If you've seen the buffs to Vermont where the heal now cools down in 40 seconds, that's the same thing that the Ohio has. Again, very similar to the heal that the Massachusetts gets. And she also has that nice American damage con that does also reach in around 38 seconds as well. The damage con for American battleships, by the way, if you guys don't know, it runs for 20 seconds, which is much longer than just about every other battleship's damage con, which runs for maybe 10 to 15 seconds. And during that whole 20-second duration, no fires or floodings are going to be started on your ship, which, if you're brawling another ship, is something that's definitely nice to have going for you. Now, the Ohio is a little slower. She does have a top speed of 28 knots, 29.5 if you do throw the speed flag on there. But this is definitely quite a fearsome ship, and thanks to that heal and damage con, even though the Montana hull isn't the most well-armored hull in the game, you can definitely stay around for quite some time using that damage con and that heal to your advantage. So she packs one hell of a punch. She has great secondaries, especially for dealing with destroyers. They don't have the power to pin 32, unfortunately, but for destroyers and cruisers, they are going to eat whatever comes your way. But they also have a very nice fire rate too on those secondaries as well, so they will be setting plenty of fires. If you don't take IFHE and you build into the fire chance, you'll have that going for you. She's a little slow, but again, all around a fantastic ship to have, but she is a pretty steep grind. You do have to get her through the Research Bureau, which means you'll have to regrind a line anywhere from around 6 to 7 times, depending upon what line you use, and also when you reset it, if you get that bonus to where you essentially get one regrind off. But she's a fantastic ship, and I would recommend getting her not only for brawls, but for random battles in general. Alright, going down to number 2, we have the Tier 10 Freemium German battleship, the Grosser Kurfürst. A ship which I made a video on just a couple of days ago. So, GK's one of my all-time favorite ships in the game. She is my second, or God, I haven't checked in a while. She's like right there with the Yamato for being my most played ship in the game. I have around, currently sitting on the GK, about 5 million free XP. And that's after having, of course, free XP to a couple of Research Bureau lines. But anyway, she is one of the best ships in the game for brawling. She has a fantastic armor scheme. I won't spend too much time talking about her since I did just do a video on her. So if you want a more in-depth look at the GK, I'll put a link to that in the description down below. But she has a fantastic armor scheme for brawling. She has that good old turtleback armor where you won't get citadeled from close range like you will with the Ohio or the Kremlin. She also has 12 16-inch guns, and I would recommend taking the 420s for a Brawl because that gives you around 10,000 more damage per salvo. She has nothing but 128 and above secondaries on her ship, which means that with the special German HE pin, every single secondary gun on the GK is capable of pinning 32 millimeters of armor, which is of course the last major armor threshold in the game, which means that you are going to be pinning pretty much everything on all the ships you're going to see, with the exception of their main armor belt, or if they have a couple of those cheeky icebreaker bows. Everything besides those, you're going to pin on those ships with the GK secondaries, which is great. That means you don't have to take IFHE. You get to keep the fire chance of the secondaries intact, along with the ability to pin 32 millimeters of armor. She's also a fast ship too. You can get her up to over 32 knots with the speed flag equipped. She has hydroacoustic search, and yes, she's not the most accurate ship from range, but this is a mode where you're going to be up in everybody's face, so you got that going for you right there as well. Overall, she's a great ship for the season of Brawls, and one I would highly recommend. But I would recommend our number one over her, hence the reason that's at number one, which is the Tier 10 Techline German battleship, the Schlieffen. Everybody should have seen this coming from, well, 2 updates ago. So the Schlieffen is by far, above and beyond, the best ship for this season or this round of Brawls. I don't know if these are technically seasons or whatever, but she's the best choice for this game mode. Why? Because, well, with the right build, which is a concealment IFHE secondary build, your secondaries will get out to 12.6 kilometers. Your detection range on your Schlieffen is 12.5 kilometers with a concealment build, with the mod, and with the commander skill, which means that the enemy literally cannot see you until they are in your secondary range. And for a season of Brawls where it's just the 2 of you in a map together, you don't have to worry about getting spotted by a carrier or by a sneaky DD. Sure, the DD can sit there and spot you, but I mean, he has to fight you sooner or later. You might think, well, he can just torpedo me, right? Well, you do have hydroacoustic search on your Schlieffen, which will prevent you from getting torpedoed as long as you use it properly. And it also has its own torpedoes too, because why not? And they're not the normal 6-kilometer German torps either. They are the 13.5-kilometer German torps. They're slow, but you will be able to essentially torpedo through the cap points with these torps with the Schlieffen. So you have hydro, you've got speed, you've got just a mind-boggling amount of secondary guns on the Schlieffen. It's literally like Spanish galleon level of guns on either side of the ship. Now, they can't pin 32 millimeters of armor because it's a bunch of 105s, but if you do take IFHE, they will be able to, and you'll be able to literally just eat through whatever shows up in this season of Brawls with the Schlieffen. The only downside is that she is a little squishy. She does have a rather low hit HP pool at tier 10 for being a tier 10 battleship, and her bow armor isn't 32, it's 25, but you have this giant 60mm icebreaker bow covering up most of the bow on the Schlieffen, so you don't have to worry about that too much. Again, in a 1v1 situation where you're going to be hopefully being aggressive in your Schlieffen, you really won't have to worry about that too much. She has more than enough HP to get in the enemy's face and either just blap it to death with her 16-inch guns or shove she has 4 racks of torpedoes, by the way, so you can shove, I think they're quad-mounted torps, so you can shove 8 torpedoes into the enemy ship's side, going 35 knots as you sail by them. This ship was made for this. She's definitely the queen of brawling at the moment in the game, so no need to look any further if you're looking for your ideal brawling ship right here. But who knows? Who knows? The meta might get pretty stale. Last round, we had a lot of DDs hiding behind islands. The Hydra does certainly help there with the Schlieffen, and the ability to go 35 knots means that you will eventually be able to catch the DD if they're trying to reverse away from you, but do be aware of their torpedoes, however. That seemed to be the meta for destroyer players last season. But anyway, guys, my 2 cents on what I think you guys should take into this season of Brawls. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below and your recommendations as well. Hope you guys are having a wonderful 4th of July. Stay safe tonight. Don't get your hand blown off by a firework. That would be most unfortunate. Hope you guys have a wonderful 4th of July. Have a wonderful week. If you like the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 40,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Again, hope you guys have a wonderful week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.